You look at any dysfunctional behavior, it stems from one of these belief systems. That's there, it has been there for a long time, and it's taken years for the person to establish, and and they will not give it up very easily. So, in treatment, part of what I do is constantly attack and try to break down these irrational belief systems. That's exactly what I do in treatment. I confront behavior. And with these kids that I'm talking about, it's extremely difficult because what do they bring with them? They bring the protective process. They bring the parents into the process, and when I start putting pressure on them and I start dealing with these irrational belief systems, the parents immediately start doing what they've been doing forever. They fall into these old patterns of defending and protecting. So again, I'm left with no tools to work with. As a clinician and as a therapist, the parents are the most important tool that I have. Because, what they do in my office for an hour means nothing compared to the 23 hours they spend outside my office. So if I don't have the parents behind me and if I don't have the parents understanding the enabling process, a perfect example just happened last week, where the kid, was in trouble. He destroyed the car basically. He was racing around. Again, not worried about breaking the car because, the car would always get fixed. And, he destroyed the car. And, I figured, well, he's going to be without a car for at least 2 weeks. So I called the parents. I said, look, don't hurry up the process. Don't try to get it through the, mechanic and try to get it fixed. Just let it go. Don't give him a car for 3 weeks. Let him feel the consequences, right? So I'm thinking, okay, well, he did a lot of damage, so it's not going to get done very quickly. The kid, I have a meeting with him that night in my office at 7 p.m., and sure enough, I hear, boom, they all rig up their cars so I can hear them from blocks away. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not possible. That cannot be his car because his car had all this damage and they told me it was going to take at least 2-3 weeks to fix it. So I said to the kid, did you bring your dad's car? He goes, no, I got my car. I go, what do you mean your car? He goes, yeah, they fixed it. So what he did was he got on the phone with the dealership, started tearing these people up, and within a couple of hours they had 10 guys working on the car. And of course he could only do that with the support of the parents, because the people in the dealership were afraid to say something to the kid because that might get back to the parent, and the parent was a good source for this dealership, who was a good client. So that's just a perfect example. I was shocked. I was just totally disbelieved that this kid. I couldn't have gotten my car back. I didn't have the power to get my car back that quickly. It takes me weeks to get my car back. But I use traditional channels. I don't use extortion. I don't use extortion, and I don't go around, bending people's arms to get my car fixed. But this kid did, and he got it. So when I confront the parents about this, the excuse was, okay, this is what happened. Because, again, here comes the enabling part. It's not only did they do it, and instead of accepting they did it, and instead of, taking responsibility that they did that, and that was a bad thing to do. Oh, you don't understand, I told this guy at the dealership to do it this way, but then that guy wasn't there that day, and then he got crisscrossed with another guy, and my son got a hold of this guy, and they fixed the car for him.
Big story.
Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, listen, you're a businessman.
The parents still give him the key back, though.
Well, exactly. Well, he had the car fixed.
Whether the car's fixed or not.
But again, if the parent really wanted that to happen, he's a businessman. He gets things done in many different areas. He could have easily had that car in the shop for 3 or 4 weeks. Very easily. It wouldn't take much effort. And they had moral ground to stand on because the kid destroyed the car. It was his fault that he destroyed the car. But again, this is the kind of stuff that I run into every day. And it makes my job so difficult because, like I said, I have a window of opportunity to deal with when I'm dealing with these kids. Very small window of opportunity. Development is a big issue in these problems. These irrational belief systems, get deeper and deeply ingrained into the person's personality, and it gets to the point where it's almost impossible to deal with. And then we run into issues, that, again, are not that easily solved. If a person continually has this idea, this belief system, that they can get away with stuff, that they can get away with things, eventually sociopathy begins to set in. And again, they're taking, freedoms with their behaviors, and they're crossing other people's boundaries in school. This is where bullying comes in. This is where stealing other kids' phones come in. This is an epidemic in our school systems right now. There are no boundaries. And these are kids that come from great families. These are kids that are, that don't have the need to steal, even though, that's, very incredible way of putting it. The need to steal. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about this, in this context. It's like there shouldn't be any need to steal. I don't believe there should be, but they feel that they have the right to take somebody else's property, and that they're okay with that. And every day I get phone calls from, the private schools in town, that are telling me, oh, so-and-so stole a phone and we had to expel them. So-and-so, because they have cameras everywhere now. But these kids, knowing this, they do it anyway. But I think that's because they have this police system that they think they can get away with it. And they believe that because they don't have to really get away with it, right? All they have to do is get caught and then have the parents come in and bail them out. So this is where the irrational belief system comes from. It's not really truly an understanding that you're a magician, that you're Harry Houdini, that you can get away with this stuff, but it's that you have the parents willing to lie, cheat, manipulate, and this is where I think the problem lies, and I've always said this, with all the kids that I work with. We spend a lot of money and a lot of time educating kids on drugs. We spend a lot of money and a lot of time educating kids on behavior. But we don't spend nearly enough time and money educating parents. And I think that's the biggest problem in the system. Is the people with the power, supposedly, are the parents. But in this enabling situation that I'm describing here, the people with the problem are the people with the power are the kids, not the parents. The parents have, completely given up all their power to these adolescents, and they're running the house. Oh, I'm having a party tonight, Mom. What do you mean you're having a party tonight? Yeah, I invited 10, 15 friends over. And then, those 10, 15 friends obviously is just the beginning of the lie. I mean, this party is all over Twitter. It's all over the internet. And next thing you know, you got 400 kids in your house. And the parents say, well, I didn't know. He told me it was just a little get-together. But wait a minute, you haven't heard the millions of horror stories about these parties? Have you not? Many times you had to hear this horror story. Kid invited 10 kids over, 300 kids showed up. Cops, breakdown, alcohol, drugs. I mean, I've heard of stories where the kids have cleaned out the house. They actually have stolen everything from the house. Because, the kid that was throwing the party, somebody went and put 2 or 3 Xanax bars in his drink, and the kid drank this because he's 15 years old and he's throwing a party, at Gables Estates, and next thing you know, he's passed out by the pool. And everybody, you see the security cameras, everybody's walking out with shoes, purses, paintings of the walls. I mean, that's what the security video showed, that they were cleaning out the house. While the 15-year-old is laying like this in the back of the house in the pool. And the parents, like I said, where are they? Oh, it was just a little get-together. We didn't want to interfere with our child's social development. He has to have friends, doesn't he? This is what they tell me. He has to learn how to drink. Let him drink in my house. This is what I hear all the time. Well, what does he have to learn how to drink? Is this like riding a bike? What's going on here? Oh, because in our country, and then they throw me the whole, the whole argument, the whole entire argument about, in our country, kids drink young. I go, yeah, I know, sometimes 8 years old, and they're drinking and passing out. It doesn't mean that it's, something that your kid should be doing. Alcohol is an incredibly powerful drug, and it has incredibly powerful effects on a brain that's not fully developed. And that's why the drinking age is 21. It used to be 18, but we figured out, through technology, through, PET scans and CAT scans, that the brain continues to grow to age 22. We should have known that because that's typically 1,000 years ago when people used to graduate from college. So we should have known that for hundreds of years before this technology was around, kids graduated from college at 22. Must have been something about that. It's always going to be like that. Development stops at 22, the brain development. So if you put alcohol in an undeveloped brain, you have all kinds of consequences. A brain that has a lot of potential can lose that potential because of problems with ethanol, which is what alcohol is. Once it goes into your bloodstream,